Well, I'm a graduate of Ball State University in Muncie, Indiana. And when I went there as a freshman, I was a brand new Christian. And as I reached my last semester of my senior year, I was student teaching near Indianapolis, Indiana. And I was realizing God was calling me to the full-time Christian ministry. I wanted to be a pastor. And so for that last semester while I was student teaching, they invited me to come back to Ball State, to the church there, and just sing and play and lead music for the stewardship banquet that's held every January. And this guest speaker for that occasion was some man I'd never heard of named Ed Nelson from Denver, Colorado. And he was a pretty good speaker. And I really enjoyed him, and I led the music for that. And afterwards, I thought, I'll visit with this man. And so he was complimenting me on the way I'd led singing and the music. And he said, you need to go to Bob Jones University and get another degree. I said, well, actually, I am, sir. I'm applying just in a few weeks and auditioning on clarinet there. And he said, well, I have a daughter there. I said, oh, I know, Kathy Pritchard. And she's supposed to be playing for my audition. He goes, oh, no. I have a single daughter there. I was like, well, that's interesting for him to tell me this. He said, you need to look her up when you get to Bob Jones. So I just sort of tucked that back in my mind and went through the audition process. And the next fall, having been given a graduate assistantship in the music department here at Bob Jones, I came, and you sort of have an opening faculty meeting in the music department where everybody meets together and gets the vision and the goals for the year, and you meet new faculty members. And I was sitting with Paul Jantz and Alan Lohr, we were all GAs together, and they were talking about the music department, and I said, which one of those girls down there is Ed Nelson's daughter? And they pointed her out to me, so I knew who I was looking for now. And after the meeting, we went outside on the covered sidewalk right in front of Fine Arts, and I sort of lingered waiting for her to come out. And here she came out the door and coming right towards me. This is my big moment, my big chance. And I'm like, hi, my name's Fred Coleman, and your dad told me to look you up. And she just sort of said, hi, and kept walking.
I think I was a little underwhelmed. I'm kind of shy, and so I wasn't going to talk to this strange man.
She just kept going.
Yeah.
After just the appropriate hello. So I wasn't too encouraged. And so I waited a little while, and they had something back then new to me called Founders Banquet, the Founders Day Banquet. And everybody invited a date to go to that. So I invited her to that, and she said yes. Hope. And so we went to the Founders Banquet together, had a great time. But I dated some other girls, took them to lunch, took them to different activities. And then comes the time for the graduate outing to the wilds. And I asked her to go, and she turned me down. And so I asked another girl. And when we got there at the wilds, I remember clearly getting off the bus and seeing her with this guy and going, really? You turned me down for him? And I was a little miffed about that whole thing.
But it was because he hadn't asked first.
So after that event, things started moving a little more hopefully, and we started seeing each other, dating each other. And that summer, she was invited to play the organ for the World Congress of Fundamentalism in Scotland at Edinburgh. And we wrote back and forth all summer while she was in Denver and then as she went to Scotland. And so the letters became more and more intimate. And I realized this is the girl that I'm going to pursue. And so when she came back from Scotland and we started the second year of our GA-ship, we dated consistently and regularly. And we talked about then getting married, and she needed to come meet my parents. So we met my parents, and we started driving out to Colorado in her car. And back in those days, GAs, as I remember, I got paid $50 a month. And that's all the money I had. And so I was like dirt poor. And when you get to Kansas and you're leaving Kansas City, Overland Park area, back in those days, the interstate, the turnpike was sort of a new thing. And I remember the sign just said, no speed limit, travel at your own risk. So I did. And about, not too far before leaving Kansas, entering Colorado, I'm traveling at my own risk about 100 miles an hour or so. And I noticed there's a blue light flashing behind me, and I was pulled off and escorted to the nearest mailbox and told that I was given a ticket. It was a $50 ticket, and it took all the money I had. And on we went. So it was a little embarrassing, and now I was really broke. So we get to Denver and meet her parents, and her dad's always so gracious and generous and kind, and he just paid for everything. And we went skiing, I think, and we went to Casa Bonita and did all the Denver experiences. Yep. And the Nelsons had a ranch. Ruth's dad grew up on a ranch up in Fort Collins. And I'd heard Ruth talk about this on and on through our whole dating experience. She loves that ranch. She loved Grandma and Grandpa's place up there. And I thought this would be the great place to propose. I'm going to do it at the family ranch in Fort Collins. So we drove up so I could meet her grandparents. And it's just the two of us. But when you get there, I mean, there's all these people. There's uncle this and aunt this and cousin this, and everybody's meeting. And they all had, it was busy. There was no time alone. Her grandpa wanted to talk to me. Grandma wanted to talk to me.
You had to take the tour of the
farm.
Had
to take the tour to see the irrigation. And it's like, it's time to head back to Denver. And we haven't been alone yet. And so we're in the car, her car, driving back on the interstate from Fort Collins, talking about that. And then finally, I don't remember, it's like a 100th Street exit or something as we're approaching Denver. I looked at her and said, well, we had no time together. If we're going to get engaged, we have to do it now. Will you marry me? I'm driving the car.
So I said, well, yes.
So it wasn't like the way people get engaged today.
There were no photographers hiding behind the back seat.
And so we went back to her folks' house, and we were now engaged. But remember, I'm broke, and I have no money. And I told her, I don't have the money to buy a ring. I'm a GA. I don't have any money. And she said, I don't need a ring. I don't need a ring. It's still just as good. So I flew back to Indiana, told my parents that the deed had been done. I had proposed. And Dad said, did you get her a ring? And I went, no, I don't have any money. And he's like, well, you got to give her a ring. And so he loaned me the money to buy her a ring. I went downtown Louisville to the family jewelry store that my parents used. And I'm pretty excited because she knows there's no ring for quite a while. And I have the ring in the little box. And she's going to fly in from Denver. And so we were going to drive in my car up to Muncie. I had like a 60 Camaro that had been salvaged from a wreck. You could see the road through the floorboards that had rusted out. There was no heat or heater in the car. In fact, you couldn't defrost the inside, so I carried a ice scraper and used it from the inside as I drive to keep the frost off of the windshield. And in order to get heat, my mom had made us big lap blankets to stay warm. So Ruth's over there all bundled up in the car.
It was cold.
It starts snowing and icing.
It was cold.
And got colder and colder the farther north we went. And of course, you're watching the road pass underneath you and you can see the snow. And she's freezing. And I thought, if I take a piece of cardboard that I have in the back and put it in front of the radiator, that will reduce the amount of cold air and it will get warmer air from the radiator through the firewall of the car. So I pulled off the road at a gas station, got the cardboard, and this whole time I'm carrying this ring that she doesn't know about in my coat pocket. And so I lift the hood, I put the cardboard in, slam the hood shut, get in the car, and on we go, and it was warmer. I've got this planned out now. We get to Muncie, to Grace Baptist, And I knew that auditorium where I was going to be music pastor. And we went there, just the two of us that night. And I turned the light on the piano. There was a spotlight, and put the spotlight on the pulpit and said, this is the auditorium where we're going to lead people in ministry. We're going to be ministering together using music. So why don't you go over and play the piano a little bit, and we'll just sort of pretend, that this is getting ready for our ministry here.
I think you were actually going to sing.
Maybe.
On Sunday, and so we practiced the solo.
And I just took this ring out of my pocket and had it sitting on the pulpit with the spotlight on it. This is going to be really a big surprise for her. And after we sang a little, I said, you need to come over here and stand and see what it's like and hear what I hear from the piano and just look at this beautiful auditorium. And she walks over, and there's the ring. And she's not overly expressive in emotion, and she's like, oh, beautiful, nice, thank you. I put the ring on. She didn't seem very surprised. She didn't seem very ecstatic.
And several days later, I told him that when we were driving up and he had gotten out to put that cardboard in front of the radiator, I could see the outline of a square little box in his pocket. So I really wasn't very surprised. I knew that he had somehow gotten a ring.
So it wasn't the surprise I had intended. And so as we were in our wedding, making our wedding vows, her dad performed the ceremony. He put into our wedding vows, the church will be their activity. And that has actually been true. It's part of our wedding vows and part of our lives together. And we just loved the ministry of the church, and we were very content and sort of figured we'd found our niche. And then all of a sudden, one night after a prayer meeting for a revival meeting we were going to have, I came home and Ruth said, we had a phone call tonight from Ed Dunbar at Bob Jones University. They want to talk to you about coming there to teach. And that was just such a huge surprise. But the Lord has seen fit to give us ministry through several local churches. And because of their differences, it's sort of in His perfect plan been great for teaching church music majors at Bob Jones, because they're all going to come and go to different types of ministries, small, big, city, country. God knows what He's doing.
And He's given us a lot of opportunities at Bob Jones itself, too, as far as working together, playing for chapel and services. We were able to go to the Philippines for the first Fundamental Baptist Congress there.
The Asian Congress.
Yeah. And never thought we'd ever be able to do anything like that. So there have been a lot of opportunities.
Never dreamed of Sound Forth. It was part of the beginning of Sound Forth music, and then Sound Forth singers, and mission trips to France and other places. God has been so good.